Welcome. Welcome to episode 10. We're talking about chapter 9, Think and Grow Rich. This chapter is on persistence, which, according to the author, emphasizes the crucial role of sustained effort in achieving success. And it speaks to the intelligent design behind this book. Everything up until now has been telling us what to do. This chapter kind of, for me, tells me how to do it, how to show up. And persistence kind of falls in line with consistency, but it's the more active role.
Yes, and persistence is such an important chapter. And Napoleon said that persistence for the character of the man is like a carbon for steel. As this is what makes a person really strong, and person makes it like steel becomes very firm and strong. And this is how persistent will shape your character and your results. And also, what I like here in this chapter that Napoleon said that the universe tests you, yes, and it gives you what you want after you pass some tests. So this is why resistance is important because we don't want to start something and quit. We have to continue and when we have the definiteness of purpose and understanding these laws which we discuss in this program, we know that persistence is the key, one of the key elements in goal achievement process.
Well, and persistence is that sustained effort, right? That's necessary to induce the faith. Faith, we talked about the importance of faith and having faith and stressing faith, and but it's essential to induce faith to transform desires into reality. And persistence is all about, I guess, maintaining a determined mindset despite, like you said, obstacles and setbacks. It's one thing to want to run a race, and to win races, you probably need to practice running that same race all by yourself. And if you want to run, 100-meter dash and you want to do it 20 times, each time you do it, it's harder and harder to do because you're tired. But when you are in the race, it doesn't matter how tired you are. If someone is running faster than you have to run faster. It's the determined. When you have a determined mindset, it's when you have proper motivation. And determination means you've got your outcome focused, but you have a burning desire. You have faith. You have auto suggestion. You have all the things that are in all the chapters, 1 through 8. But your the obstacles and setbacks don't matter. If you're trying to swim to shore so you don't drown because your boat sank, it doesn't matter if there's a big rock in the way. You don't just drown. You swim around the rock and go. You're still trying to get to that island where you're trying to be safe. Um, you need to maintain determination, and that's persistence, and it's ultimately the power of will, right?
Yes, and also we spoke a lot about other ingredients of success already and those principles. So persistence come together with attitude. Yes, attitude of the winner. That winners never quit and quitters never win. So it comes with the attitude and also it comes to the attitude to the failure. Yeah, because we know that failure is the part of success. So never, we also read it in the previous chapter that nobody became successful without failing. So when we fail, we don't shrink. We expand. We understand this is just a process. And this is what I learned on the way. And when we have definiteness of person, right attitude to failure, also faith and resilience. Yeah, another component of persistence also is resilience. Resilience, this ability to to fall down and get up, fall down and get up. And this is how you continue walking, and you become stronger and stronger on the way. And those things which could knock you down before now become very easy. Like you don't even notice that. And you look back at yourself if you are in this process, and you also don't recognize yourself, become you, because this persistence, when you go one challenge after another challenge pursuing your goal, it makes you that steel, that carbon makes steel strong. And you look back and you don't recognize, because you transformed so much, you transform yourself, you grow, because as bigger goal you have, bigger challenges you have to face, because this is the challenges which make you strong, which make you grow, which open your mind. You see opportunities, you see possibilities, you become resourceful to find solution. And when you all focus is to your goal, this is how you will achieve your goal sooner or later, but you will be there.
Well, and like I said, the persistence is that effort that's necessary to induce faith. But faith isn't necessarily the motivation. You're not motivated to have faith in something. You once when you to induce that faith, you need willpower. And when you couple willpower with your desire, and that's why it was so important to have a burning desire, that's an unstoppable force if it's truly connected. And that unstoppable force induces the faith. The faith, in turn, powers the willpower. And that's the driving force behind any action you take. But without it, without willpower, the persistence is impossible. But like you said, the definition of purpose and desire is is a cause, but there's also that self-reliance. You want to believe in your ability to achieve those goals. I liken a lot of things in this book because as we're reading this book, and I've read this book a bunch of times, but this is the first time I've read it since I started raising and training horses. And horses will test you because they're a prey animal and they live in herds, and that's how their strength is the group. But they always have a leader. Always, they have to have a leader, and every day they make sure they chose the right leader. So when you're training horses, you got to establish that you're the leader, and the leader has a plan. And the reason they do that, like some people think horses are being bad. No, they're not being bad. They're making sure you're the leader, because if you're not, we could all die. If we choose the wrong leader, we could get attacked and killed. So we need to test that leader. So usually when it seems like things are going against you and those obstacles, those are met to eliminate you from contention of success, eliminate you from becoming the leader, eliminate you from moving forward and going to a next level of accomplishment. And desire turns to self-reliance. Then you have definiteness of plans, because that's how I define a leader. A leader is someone who has a plan. But organized plans, even if they're imperfect, but you need to have a roadmap and a structure to have this persistence. You need to know where you're going. You can't just say, let's go on vacation, load up the car and just start driving. There's got to be a goal. There's got to be a place to get there, because you won't drive 8 hours, say, if there's not a place. You'll just stop after 4 hours because you're tired. But if you know you've got to get somewhere that's 8 hours away, and it's a goal, it's a hotel on the beach or something, well, you're like, good, we're halfway there. We have a plan. Your knowledge, your plans are sound, because you got to know that they're sound, because when you reduce uncertainty, you build confidence. Confidence is fuel for persistence, which is fuel for faith, which is driven by desire. So all of these things, all of these tools work together. But persistence is stronger with cooperation. You got to have a harmonious collaboration, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, support and synergy in cooperation. Like, you picked a leader, but what does a good leader do? A good leader develops others and turns them into creators and ultimately leaders also. And you set an example by being persistent. So you can be intentional about this, but understand it's driven by willpower, knowledge, and plans, and it induces your faith. And it's all based on what the desire is. That's why we have a desire that we auto suggest and we say it twice a day. All of these things are related. The willpower persistence becomes ingrained through repetition, just like communicating with your subconscious mind. It becomes a habit. Persistent action becomes automatic. It becomes your default state. You don't have to be as intentional about it if it's a habit. Even
Yes.
even drug addicts and smokers and people who have addictions, they don't get up and say, "All right, my goal today is to smoke a cigarette." No, they sit down in the chair where they normally smoke a cigarette and they light up a cigarette. It's just a habit. Um, you can be intentional about your habits, or you can let your habits rule you. And the point of this whole chapter is to let you know that you're in charge. And the secret is persistent, consistent action.
Yes. You mentioned will, so let's speak a little bit more about will. What is exactly will? Will is not only willpower. Yes, that people usually understand it wrong, that they think they have to force themselves to do something that they don't want to do. Usually, if we go and look at this like more wider, will is your high mental faculty. It is ability to give yourself command and do that. It is also ability to focus on something that you want, focus on something that you want to do, for example, daily, or something that you want to achieve, and exclude everything else that is not aligned. This laser focus on your want, on your goal, and saying yes only to things which are aligned, which are on the way, and you know that doing that will help you to achieve your goal, and say no to everything else. Yes, it is saying no to any distractions, because as you know, laser, it is the light which is focused on one dot, and it can cut the steel. Yeah, this is what will makes to you, that you can achieve such a bigger goal, such big results if you keep yourself, your attention laser focus, and this is where will play significant role.
I think when I read this chapter, I it reminded me of the chapter on imagination and how we talked about how strong the connection is with creativity and imagination in children, but the way the world teaches us and trains us, they kind of weaken that connection with imagination and creativity. But this is also true with will. When you have children, they have strong wills. I remember taking my son to the store, he's a toddler, and pushing him in the little basket. There was a big display full of these giant balls. And we had dozens of these balls at our house. Some of them in the out in the backyard, deflated. We don't need any of these balls, but their display is there. And he's ball. He wanted a ball, and I was like, "You don't need a ball." And then he started to fuss, and then people are looking at me because my kid is fussing. I don't want him to fuss, so I'm like, "Well, let me give him a ball, and he can hold it while I'm shopping, and then right before I check out, I put the ball back." And then I can push him to the car while he's fussing, and he'll probably fall asleep in the car. But I get distracted. It's over. He has a singleness of purpose. He has that will. He doesn't want to hear about the fact that there are four just like it at home. And he doesn't play with those. He just wants that one right now. But the will, when some people complain about their kids, oh, she's strong willed. I had enough experience because in a previous lifetime, I managed and trained and recruited salespeople. I was looking for that stubbornness, that will, that because it's a power. I mean, will, power is two words and they go together nicely here in this context. But when you have a strong will, you see what you want. And strong salespeople, it was amazing to me the way their hearing worked. Uh, you could scream no in their face 10 times, they won't hear it. But you could whisper the word okay or yes from across the street, in a crowded city. They hear that because their will only allows them to feel that success. And as we get older, unless we exercise that, unless we're intentional about it, it goes away just like our imagination did.
Yes, yes, it is so powerful. I want to read a little bit from the chapter about the four simple steps which lead to the habit of persistence. And they call for no great amount of intelligence, no particular amount of education, and but little time or effort. And these are the necessary steps. First one, a definite purpose backed up by burning desire for its fulfillment. Second, a definite plan expressed in continuous action. Third, a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. And the fourth, a friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. Yeah, these are four steps, and we discussed most of them. And also, we have the community, which will help you with the fourth one. Yes, to be among people who will encourage you to keep going, who also have big goals, who do the same. And being together, sharing challenges, sharing what helps you to overcome, will help you also to achieve your goal, because we all know this very famous phrase that says that you will be the fifth of people, you will be average of five people you surround yourself. Yes, so if you
Right.
surround yourself with five people who are also doing the same, having big goal, understanding these principles, growing, learning, implementing, you will be the sixth of them. Yes, and this is how community is so important.
Exactly. I mean, the importance of the steps, and you know me, I love checklists. I love tactical, you know, instructions or things I can reference. And these steps provide a practical framework for building persistent habits. And, these four steps, I mean, he says it outright. These steps cultivate persistence. And he's not suggesting that persistence is a good idea. He's not suggesting that persistence is good or bad. He's saying it's absolutely necessary, especially in the framework that this book provides. But you want to develop that. And it's not rocket science. Like I mentioned, the best salespeople, they don't hear you when you say no. How many times have you gone to buy something and you said no at least once, but you went home with it? You met a persistent salesperson. And sometimes there's a fine line between persistent and aggravating. But if you ever are in a situation where you're trying, I say selling as if everybody's a salesperson, but in reality, everybody kind of is. You're selling yourself, you're selling your business, you're selling your ideas, you're selling your friendship. But if you ever lose a sale because you were too persistent, the reality is you didn't lose it. You never had it. For every sale or deal that you consummate because you were persistent, it's because of the persistence. You never lose one. Whenever you turn someone off because you're too persistent, they weren't ever a sale. They weren't going to be a sale. They were being nice. They didn't want to say no. They didn't what it was. So persistent people push through that, and they don't necessarily waste their time. When I was doing sales directly, I wanted to hear a no. I wanted to hear an absolute no. And people are polite. They'll say, well, I want to think about it, or maybe so, or maybe down the road, or later, or something like that. But if I'm pushing for the no, I understand that there's a certain number of no's you have to hear before you hear the yes. But a thousand maybes, they just waste your time because you're constantly following up and see if you want to answer any questions. This is true with everything. The ones you turn off because you demanded a decision or you pushed them to say yes or no, what you did is you shortened that process. You saved yourself some time. You didn't lose a sale. You didn't lose an opportunity. You didn't miss out on anything. What you did is you gave yourself more time to focus on finding a like minded person or finding a new client or finding a new partner or adding to your mastermind. Never always err on the side of being persistent. And the way to do that, he said, you back it by your burning desire. This is not being persistent. If you have no desire or goal, doesn't make sense. But you want it, the continuous action needs the plan. You need to stop hearing the negative influences until you get the definite no, and a supportive alliance. It was always great to have a sales organization and all the salespeople would meet. And when they would meet, they would tell their little war stories about how they almost got a deal or how they closed a deal that was dead or how they overcame an objection. But they all it's encouraging individuals. They all want to succeed just like you, and they're doing exactly what you're doing. That's the value of a mastermind. A mastermind of people whose goal is to create giant quilts that take a year to sew versus a group of people whose goal is it to make $1 million in 12 months. Those are two completely different masterminds. The practical framework or alliance of encouraging individuals in the group that's trying to create these giant knitted quilts in 12 months, they would have trouble aligning and would be very turned off by the energy in a group of people trying to create $1 million in 12 months. But both groups are great, both are supportive, both encourage and cultivate persistence. Persistence is necessary to success because even in the group that's trying to make the giant quilts, the quilts is the goal. It's a clear goal. They all share it. They're all on board with it and they succeed together because they're persistent, because the group and the alliance forces you to show up.
Yes, so by now we already discussed so many different jewels of success formula. Yeah, we spoke about definiteness of purpose, we spoke about attitude, about faith, about imagination, planning, and today is persistence. So it is good to check yourself. Check yourself. Where are you in all these steps? How did you change your daily practices since we started this program? What are your new habits since we started program? How many new habits did you change? What habit are you working this week? How persistent you are on achieving your goal? How ready you are to say no to everything else which is not in line with your goal? It's good to ask yourself questions because it is not so much important what information you have. You can read thousands of books, but if you don't get it, as it is said, embody this. It means that you become that person, you make these habits, it becomes part of your essence. The way you think, the way you plan, the way you visualize, imagine things, the way you uh, do things, the way you persist, the way you communicate, everything should start showing the change as you become a new personality. Because remember that in order to create new reality, we have to create new personality. And this is what is our goal with this program, to get you through this transformation. And we believe that you do the homework and you implement what we know, not just listening us, but really embody this process, contemplate how you can implement this every day. What has to be changed? Maybe attitude, maybe habits, maybe your circle, your circle of friends. Who is encouraging you, or maybe somebody drawing you down, draining your energy? And look also at your inner dialogue, because inner dialogue will be foundation of your results. We have 500 thoughts every hour, and most of them we are not even aware of. So start watching your inner dialogue. Which phrases you say to yourself? What you can tell to yourself to grow resilience, to grow persistence, to be even more strong in these characters.
And you've said it, and you've said it a bunch of times. And I mean, I've known you for a while, and I know you're all about big goals, because all of these steps and all of this persistence and all this work, intentional, tactical, strategic work, you have to do just as much for a tiny goal as you have to do for a giant goal. It's the same steps. The ultimate goal is not as relevant as you think it is. It's the process to achieve the goal. And that's why anyone who's talked to you more than once knows you're big on setting big goals. So if we're going to go through all these steps, we're going to go through all this work, and we're going to do all the things we learned from this course or this book, why do it all for something small? Do it all for something big. And you talk about overcoming obstacles. You've made it, you really hammered the point home in that first chapter when we talked about success usually comes right after a setback or right after numerous setbacks. Persistence is that thing that you need to go to dig 4 more feet or whatever to get to the gold. It allows you to turn that temporary defeat into an ultimate victory. I think this is important because overcoming obstacles, every time you overcome obstacles, you increase your confidence. And this teaches you the value of resilience and the fact, it's a fact, it's not my opinion, but it's a fact that failure is not final. I mean, unless you fail to jump out of an airplane, that might be a final failure. But if if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And that's, you know, a rough thing that sometimes parents or teachers or adults tell children when they hurt themselves. Oh, it didn't kill you. Now you're stronger. It's 100% true. It's just sometimes you don't want to hear it. But when you have persistence and it's intentional, it's connected to your desire, which is connected to your goals, which is, involves specialized knowledge and creativity and imagination. Um, all these points in persistence are important. It's important because persistence bridges the gap between desire and achievement. That's how you achieve goals. There's a gap between you don't have the goal accomplished yet and you want an accomplishment. Persistence is what gets you from A to B. You overcome adversity, it builds character, and every time you succeed at a goal, you realize potential. There's hidden potential that we all have. I mean, I've heard statistics, and I'm probably misquoting it, but I've heard that we use maybe 10% of our brain. And our brain is amazing to us at 10%. What would change if you increased it to just 11%? Or 15%? It'd be a 50% improvement in what your brain can accomplish. You get closer to realizing your full capabilities by trial and error, by succeeding and failing, by being persistent, by having goals, by being, communicating with your subconscious. The essence of this whole chapter teaches us that persistence isn't a trait, it's a skill. And a skill can be developed and used to achieve whatever your desired outcome is. But it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you're just riding around on someone else's persistence and your success is not really your own and it's not building any confidence. You're there for the ride and you receive whatever reward you get. But the value is doing it yourself.
Yes, we can also share maybe what we usually use to keep persistent, yeah, to be persistent and resilient. For me, for example, it helps to understand the law of opposites and attitude to challenges. The law of opposites says that there is equal amount of positive in every negative, or equal amount of negative in every positive. So
Right.
this is what we choose to focus. So even when something happens and it is challenging and it can just be difficult, we think it is a problem, we can shift our focus and start looking what is good in this, what is good in this, and continue asking yourself, and you will see that you will find good in every situation. Especially you can practice when you look back and you remember that something bad was happening, some problems you had, but if you look back, you always can find something good. If you did that choice to look for good, you always could look for good, and you could benefit and can benefit from every challenge, from every problem. Because remember that hieroglyph in Chinese, which is used for problem or for opportunities, it is the same and it has two meanings. So it is you to choose, is this problem for you that you will let to knock you down, or you want it to be a milestone to discover something bigger which you didn't know that has have in you have inside, and grow from there. And then when you look back, you will say, so good that it happened, because now I understood so much which I didn't know before. Yeah, so this first one that helps me. And another one is also that you don't know everything what happens, you don't know if it is good or bad because you can think it is good, but later you can understand that it is bad, or you
Absolutely.
think it is bad and later you say, oh, it was good actually, so if you have that mindset that you don't get excited too much when something that you think is good happens, you don't get excited so much, and you don't go so down and low when something that you think is bad happens, that you keep in the middle. You don't get excited and too much, and you don't go, yes, you celebrate good moments, but you don't go emotionally too high or emotionally too low, because it will be opposite. Yes, there is always balance. And so everything what happens, you say, who knows what is good, what is bad? Let's see. I want to see something good in this situation and what I can do that will help me to grow. So if you start asking this question, you will focus your mind to that positive side, to the sage energy, and you will come out stronger, wiser, and you will see so many doors will open from that, and you will say it was good actually. Yeah,
I
this.
actually have a similar technique, and it has its roots in my first job after college. I was working as a salesman and the owner was teaching me, how to do it, and I'd never done it before. And we would talk about when you're in sales, you have objections, and you have to overcome objections. And we all wanted to know what's the perfect thing to say every time someone says, "Oh, I got to talk to my husband," or "Oh, I don't have it, I can't afford it," or "Oh, I got to wait till summer," or whatever their objection is. New young salespeople will think there's a script or there's an objection handler I can say to close this deal, and maybe there is, but every objection is kind of unique. What he taught me to do was, and if you're good at thinking on your feet, this is a great thing to say. You say, if someone says, "Well, the reason I can't buy it today is blank," if you don't have anything to say, tell them that's exactly why you should buy it. And what you've just done is you painted yourself into a corner. And when you're painted into a corner, you're properly motivated to use your brain, because then sometimes they'll say, well, thinking about it that way, maybe you're right. Maybe the sooner the better, that it'll come out of them, which is great because you don't have to do anything, but they'll say, what do you mean? Okay. Now my brain has to come up with a reason why their rational, logical sounding objection is the reason they should not object. But in that same vein, I work with business owners and I tell them, whenever they're telling me, oh, the economy, oh, this president is bad for my type of business, or the market, or people are, people aren't making as much money as they used to, or interest rates are too high, whatever their objection is. I tell them that, and this is true, but I tell them in every change or every situation, you can look at it as a roadblock or you can look at it as an opportunity, because everything is an opportunity. There's an opportunity somewhere. I was on the phone with a client. She was in Naples, Florida. She had a small estate planning law firm, and a big hurricane came. There was no power. There was going to be no power for weeks. And she couldn't even get to her office to even know if her office was still there. And I asked her, I said, okay, but how is this an opportunity for your business? She goes, how can you ask me that? People have lost their lives. This storm was devastating. I said, I have no doubt it was devastating. I can't control the storm. But what do your clients, why do they get from you what they get from you? They create wills and estate plans and trusts, and they do probate when people die, that type of work. Well, living through a storm or experiencing a catastrophe makes people prioritize things. Probably a good time to sell things like life insurance, because that could happen again. Or it's a good time to say, are your affairs in order? If something happens to you, who takes care of your children? Is that in a will? Where do you want your money going? Do you want it all going to your 17-year-old son who makes poor decisions when spending money? Or do you want to put it in a college fund or something like that? She decided to start being active in, volunteering with cleanup efforts and the Red Cross and things like that. And she was meeting other people who were volunteering. And as they were cleaning up garbage or clearing out debris, other professionals from her community, she was networking. She said, in that first day of cleanup with all those volunteers, I got 5 new clients. I was like, okay, I'm not saying that devastating storm was a good thing. I'm saying that devastating storm, just like anything significant that happens, is an opportunity for growth for anyone who can see that it is. And sometimes you can't see it. So you have to box yourself into it. Say to someone else, hey, that tornado that just ripped up your house is an opportunity. And you're saying it to someone who's crying because they just lost their house. How is it an opportunity? You feel heartless. Well, you told me you had insurance. Your countertops and your flooring were outdated. When you get all of that replaced, you can have some modern countertops or flooring. And that's true. I was finally able to floor new floors in my house when I lived in New Orleans for Katrina. Couldn't afford it. But insurance said, oh, you're going to need your floors redone. Well, so now I had the money that I didn't have before. I had the inconvenience of cleaning up debris around my yard, but there's an opportunity in everything. And just like you said, there's a positive and a negative. Trick yourself or corner yourself or box yourself into a situation where you have to see the positive, because it's the negative is stronger. And if you're not being intentional and you're not showing persistence and you're not linking all this to whatever your goals are, the negative is going to win. We're all optimists until we're not. Everybody thinks they're an optimist, but let something bad happen and you see that optimist turn into a pessimist. Like, I'm doomed, I'm snake bit, woe is me, I'm horrible. But when there's no problem, they're an optimist. Persistence and proper persistence that's connected to willpower, connected to a desire, and it's empowering your faith. That is what's required to see what you're seeing. And I like the practical tool of boxing myself in a corner, forcing my brain to work. But you've got to think. You've got to be in charge. You're either the leader or you're a follower. And leaders see the potential and they see the opportunity, no matter what.
Yes, and another technique is when something happened, automatically we go to that left brain, yes, our analytical brain, and that part of the brain where our programs are, our saboteurs are, which start judge us or whatever happens, yes, like different saboteurs. So in this also minute, we have to create habit to get in our right brain, to get more to our feelings and to connect to our body. So it is very good technique that you can um, concentrate and think only about your breath. Like breathe deeply, inhale, hold, exhale, and like this you sit like 3 minutes. It will help you to move from left brain to right brain, or you can feel your fingertips, you can feel palms, like do something that you will come more to senses and to your feeling your body instead of going just to sabotage, to that saboteur's mode. It also helps a lot
Right.
to
And a
create.
great exercise is to just look at the past. Um, Persistence emphasizes that crucial role of sustained effort to achieving success. But look at your past. We all have different success and failures in our past. But think of some of the major things that happened. Like I remember bad hurricane, or I remember losing a job, or I remember a breakup and end a relationship. And at the time, it all those things seemed pretty devastating. But how much faster would I have recovered, and how much stronger would I have been if in those moments I was strong enough to say, "How is this an opportunity?" And a great exercise is look back on a key negative moment in your life where you were, you know, beaten, you were knocked down, you may have been depressed for a while afterwards. What, and that's in the past. So you now hindsight's 2020. You know how it worked out. Yes, I a marriage ended. It was horrible, but I'm now remarried and happy. You know, everything happens for a reason. But go back to the event that changed the projection of your life that you thought was devastating. If you could go back to that time and get in your head and say, how is this an opportunity? Well, take what happened afterwards. What good came out after that event that probably wouldn't have happened but for the negative event itself? Um, I think you'll start to see, people that speculators in the stock market, they think, oh no, the stock has gone down 10% in the last week. Okay, back up and look at a stock ticker. It looks like an EKG. Your heart is beating. Boom, 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 boom. You have to close your eyes, not look at it for a year. And in most cases, unless it's a terrible investment, it went up from when you stopped looking at it a year ago. It was a wild roller coaster of a ride to get there. But if you can step out of the moment and know that your goal is to get up here, and the setbacks are just part of it. If you hook your heart up to an EKG and it is consistent and it stays on one place, that means you're dead, because an EKG measures your heartbeat, and your heart beats and it goes up and it goes down. It doesn't flatline means, okay, 7:16 a.m. time of death. It means you're not living. There's peaks and valleys, and when you're in the valley, it's hard to see the peak. But every financial recession and depression that's ever happened ended. Every one of them. They're not still going on. They happened and they stopped. We have prosperity and we have lean times. And we have that financially, professionally, personally. You can overcome the low times if you can maintain your optimism, and maintaining your optimism requires persistence, and proper persistence is fueled by willpower. It's linked to faith, and it all starts with a burning desire.
Yes, and there is a Persian proverb that says that after the dark night, the light day comes. So you always know that whatever happens, if you have right attitude, if you implement what we learn in this program, all these principles, you will know that your success is guaranteed, because it is not a secret for some people, like chosen people. This is the formula which everyone can implement and succeed. So this is guaranteed formula. And this is just up to you if you do the work. Again, uh, this week we want you to contemplate on where you are now, compare with where you were in the beginning of this program, because till now you should have seen already a huge transformation in the way how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you plan, your habits, your attitudes, your time, how you spend imagining things with your goal. So a lot of things has to be shifted by now. And this is a good time to ask your questions. Do I really want to achieve my big goal, which I set? Yes, ask a question. Do you read your goal every day? Do you write it in the morning, in the evening? Do you keep it in your mind? Do you do everything that comes from the goal? Do you make your decisions as from the goal already achieved? Start asking your question and contemplate and answer them honestly and see what you can improve in order to get even more results and more value from this program.
We don't know that the sun's going to come out tomorrow, but I've been alive and the sun's come up every single day for almost 20,000 days. I'm pretty confident that that's a predictable pattern that's going to happen. But yeah, the night ends, bad days end, bad weeks, bad months, bad years, bad experiences, bad things end, good things end. But if we're looking for the opportunity in everything, especially bad things, it's important to remember that all the evidence you've presented thus far in your life indicates that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. We know that because it keeps happening. We count on it. We trust it. We expect it. Ex- Count on the fact and know the fact and trust the fact that whatever obstacle is in your way is going to be, you're going to overcome it. It's just how and how quickly and what is your attitude while you're doing it. And you're much more likely to have a better outcome overcoming obstacles when you employ willpower that is persistence.
Yes, and also it is much easier to overcome obstacles and different situations when you're grateful. Always be grateful. Always you have so many reasons to be grateful. Yes, be at that state of gratefulness and understanding whatever comes to life, be grateful for that. Appreciate because this is given for you. It is not that life happened to you, life happens for you. So look at this. What this is I have today, yes, maybe it seems difficult, but I am grateful for this experience because it is given for me for the reason. Maybe I don't know what it is now, but definitely I will know how after I overcome this obstacle.
Okay. Well,
Yes, so next week we will continue our journey and we will speak about the power of mastermind. This week, our homework will be to go again deep into these four steps and see what is your definite purpose, yes, which comes from your goal, what is your plan, definite plan, yes, also how you can overcome different challenges. Just analyze what situation you faced maybe before or maybe now and see how you can look at them from different perception. And of course don't forget to connect with us and give us your feedback, or maybe you have questions. We are always happy to support you. And also the community where you which you're part of, also community of like-minded people. It is loving and supporting environment, and we are always happy to hear from you.
yeah. And if you've been doing all of the homework assignments, this particular homework assignment should be kind of simple because it's taking elements of work you've already done. This is a cumulative project and everything feeds the next thing. So, your burning desire, your definiteness of purpose, your continuous action, negative influence. We've talked about all of this before. None of this is new. It's just getting it clear in the context of persistence. And if you haven't been doing the homework assignments, what are you doing? This stuff works, but it doesn't necessarily work. It works if you decide to make it work, and you make it work by having your clear purpose, your clear desire. You're restating it. You're doing the auto suggestion. You're leveraging everything you've learned so far, and we've hinted about it quite a bit. We've talked about it quite a bit, but get this persistence down, get these 4 steps to cultivate it in however you need to, because this next chapter, which is not a surprise, which you know what it's going to be about, the mastermind. And spoiler alert, look around on the group discussions, because a mastermind is forming, and it's forming for the people that are doing the work, taking the steps, doing the homework, reading the book, rereading the book, asking questions, getting clarification, and implementing everything they've learned. And the reward is, there's no limit on what the rewards can be. Do the homework, please. I'm not because I need it for anything. I know you do.
Yes, and if you watch this video for the first time, we would strongly recommend you to start from the first video, because this is program which one video and work for that module is important before you get to the next level, to the next step. So this is all compounding effect. So find the first lesson, first module, or reach out to us if you have any questions, and do your work. Work the plan. Yes, work the plan which you create. And we are looking forward to see you at the top and achieve your goal.
I can't wait to hear it, because I know what this book can do. I know what it's done for me. I know what it's done for people close to me, and there's a reason I keep reading it. There's a reason I love talking about it. There's a reason I know some of the people I've exposed this book to. It has transformed their lives. I didn't write this book. I but I've helped people out by introducing them to it. And even better than introducing to it is to kind of share these chapters and these lessons and turn it into a living thing through this program. I mean, everyone that's active right now can point to what benefit they've seen so far. And we're not finished. It keeps getting better, but Elena's right. This is episode 10. 10 is much more impactful after 9, which is more impactful after 8, which is more, so on. Start at 1. Watch them all. I can't think of a higher, better use of your time if anyone who has goals that they haven't achieved, or they need something, they want success that they don't have, properly dissecting this book and implementing into your life, I can think of no better way to make that stuff happen. Honestly.
Yes, and this is why we decided to create this program, to help you on the way, to hold you accountable. You can hold you accountable communicating with other participants of the community who also doing the same. So don't be alone. Reach out to us, reach out to other members, ask questions, ask for help if you need, and let's make sure that you implement everything. And we are looking forward to see you successfully achieving your goal.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.